Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We've got a couple guests this morning, but they'll wait their turn to talk here, I guess. We'll take a look at the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, only thing I'd like to add on there, at 9:30, Steve Weeds will be joining us by Zoom instead of in person, and Kathy is also on by Zoom this morning. She is working from home today.
Okay,
So that's the only changes I have.
all right. Anybody care to approve?
So moved.
Les made the motion.
Second.
Chris seconded it. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, motion passes. How about the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, I'd move the consent agenda.
Luke made the motion to approve.
Dan will second.
Dan seconded.
Dan will second.
Okay, we have Luke and Dan on that one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, motion passes. Nick, gonna give us a update on the road and bridge issues going on today?
Good morning.
Good morning.
First up today, as you remember, we purchased a lowboy trailer back in June. I did not list on that request for board action to pay it as an auditor's warrant. Looking back, I should have. We've received the trailer. In order to get them their payment in a little more timely of a manner, I'd like permission to pay for that as an auditor's warrant.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval.
Okay, Chris made a motion to approve payment.
Second.
Seconded. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
What was our original estimate or quote on that? Did it match what the final bill is? I don't recall.
Does the bid match the original quote? I think that's what he's wondering about, Nick.
Yes, originally there was an issue with something to do with the fenders. I don't remember what it was, so I had to come back and it changed the low bidder. I don't remember exactly what that was, but as far as I know, what I have listed here, well, actually what I have listed here will not match the bill because this doesn't have the excise tax on it, or the bill from Towmaster won't have that.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay,
You say excise tax needs to be added to it, is that right? The state
Yes.
tax? Okay.
But, so the check that we'll end up writing to Towmaster won't have the excise tax on it. That'll be separate.
paid later.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, correct.
Oh, it goes with the plates.
Yep.
Right.
Next up, we budgeted $8,500 for a printer this year. The one we have is pretty old. It's been very, very good to us. We're very happy with it. We priced out, what we currently have is a Savin. Like I said, that one's been very good to us. We priced that out again, and then the last one we had was a Kyocera, and we were very happy with that too. So those are the two we priced out. And in comparing apples to apples, the Savin came in cheaper, so we're going to recommend purchasing a new Savin. As you can see, I budgeted $8,500 for it, and it came in well under that. I think this one might actually be a touch smaller than what we have because we don't print off the volume of plans anymore that we used to. We put them online, so I don't really think we necessarily need as big a one as we used to have. So that's probably part of that savings. So.
What kind of quotes do you have for the printer that you want to purchase?
Did I include that?
4780, is that?
Yes.
Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes,
you'd like
correct.
to-
Yep, the little bid there.
One you're recommending, or?
Yep.
Okay. That'll be big enough to do what you want it to do?
Yes, yes, it will. Yep.
Anybody have any other questions about that, or care to purchase it?
Mr. Chair, I'd move for approval. of low
Okay,
bid.
Luke made a motion to approve the
Second.
second for the 4780. There's a sales tax, no sales tax on that or anything?
I don't remember if that was included or not. I didn't,
There's no sales tax.
okay,
Shouldn't be anyway. If they charge you, take it off.
sure.
Give them an ST3 form and it'll be all good.
Where will that come from as far as service? And I mean, is there someone nearby that sells these things, or if you need repairs or something, is that something?
It's in Sioux Falls. I don't remember which company it
That
is.
far away then?
No, it's out of Sioux Falls, correct, yep.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Dan, you were okay?
Yes, I was an aye.
Okay. Good, thank you. Okay,
Okay.
motion approved.
Next up, I received a request from the city of Pipestone in regard to the Phase 3 for the Indian Lakes project. If you recall, we had to sponsor that project because they're not big enough in population to be considered a state aid city. So their portion of the project is a little over $128,000. And as per the city-county agreement, they're supposed to deposit that money with us after bid opening. But I was contacted by the city and due in part to higher than expected engineering costs, they're asking to wait till after the first of the year to pay that to us. We're not gonna get any construction costs on this project until they start construction sometime in the spring, so, you know, if that's something the board wishes to do, I don't see any problem with that. So.
Okay. Do we know?
Mr. Chair, this is Dan. I'll move that we approve the request to delay payment till after the first of the year.
Do we have a date that we can expect payment, or was it just gonna be an open-ended thing? Whenever the city got some cash in the checkbook, they'll send us a check, or?
Can you?
Need to speak to that?
Sure, yeah.
Just so we kinda got something in the minutes about when we can expect it, I guess. I don't know where.
Mr. Chair, for the sake of discussion, I'll second the motion.
Okay, good. Thanks, Chris.
Did you want me to address that, Mr.
Yeah, if
Chair?
you, yeah, just, it's not a.
Jeff Jones, Pipestone City Administrator. First of all, thanks for making time for me and appreciating it, giving, you know, the layout. But the situation is just a little background. When we entered into the agreement, the city has been budgeting an amount each year, and but as Nick mentioned, we have had a significant amount of engineering costs related to that. And we do have in our 2021 budget adequate funds to make the total payment. You know, I can pay that right after the first of the year. It's not that the city doesn't have the money. I want to be clear on that since we're in a public eye here. But for convenience of budgeting, since we do have that money in the budget for 2021, it would just be easier for us. Otherwise, we'd have to transfer funds at the end of the year to cover it. So it's more a matter of convenience, and we'd certainly appreciate the county's consideration of that request.
Okay, anybody else have any other questions for, okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, and have a good Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Jeff.
Okay, Nick, now you have something about the judicial ditch.
Yep, my last item for today would be an update for the judicial ditch RFPs. On November 18th, we had a small task force get together. We talked about the RFPs that we received for the flooding concerns along Judicial Ditch 1. We asked staff from the City of Pipestone, the DNR, and the National Monument if they knew of any funding opportunities to pay for the study that the RFP addressed. And unfortunately, none of them knew of any funding sources to pay for the study. However, the DNR did say that there were possible funds to cover any construction costs or relocation costs. So, you know, there's some good news there. Anyway, after some conversation with the group, the task force recommended proceeding with the low bid from Bolton and Mank for a cost estimate of $30,000 to $40,000, depending on how in-depth we wanted them to go on certain items. But there wasn't a recommendation on who should pay for it. Mm-hmm. So Steve and Chris were at the meeting as well. Did I cover everything there, or am I missing something?
No.
Okay.
I don't think you missed anything.
Okay. So I guess that's where we're at with that.
Therein lies the issue. If we're not gonna have any partners involved in this, I guess, as far as I'm concerned, it's dead. I mean, it's in the city of Pipestone.
Mr. Chair,
In their
question for Nick. Could you maybe, expound a little bit on just what the scope of work for the engineering fees?
Oh, sure. So what the RFP all covers, that's what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, we would have this group, whoever was selected, if we went with one of these, they'd look at just flood mitigation measures like, like retention, detention ponds to try to help with the flooding there. Ditch improvements, bypass channel, or, the buyout option, and then have them kind of rank what's most cost effective. So that's really what this study would be identifying.
Okay, my concern is it's a substantial amount of money for engineering. Physically, of course, we get nothing out of it but the engineering. And at this point, we're not sure who's going to pay for this engineering portion of it.
Yep.
But as we move forward, if we do commit to this project, who's not only going to pay for the engineering fees, but as we go forward, who's going to actually pay for physical work? Or is this money engineered, put on the shelf and never used? If you could address my concerns on that.
Yep. So right now today, nobody has said no to participating in this. This is really the first, I guess, discussion on who would pay for the study. I suppose the board could recommend something, and we could contact the other groups. See if the private people wanted to help, or the city or whatever. Then the DNR didn't promise us anything, but he sounded to me like if the study was done right, there's a really reasonable chance that we could get some funding out of them for something. So
Can we firm some of that up before we actually commit to the engineering study, so we've got an idea that we're not going to get stuck holding the bag here?
Yeah, I would think we could proceed however the board wishes.
Luke?
I guess, considering the fact that there have been two previous studies done in 1985 and 1995, and basically they're gonna look at the same range of options that were covered by those two studies. In my mind, the only thing that's gonna change is the cost estimates for the various options.
I would think that the options would probably change a little bit, because I think the one included a bypass channel where the family services building is.
Right, and obviously that can't happen.
Correct. So things like that would be updated.
Right.
And I don't know if they ever did they look at buyouts in those previous studies?
They did,
They did, okay.
but of course it would probably give you more current numbers.
Right, yeah, I guess when I reviewed the previous ones, I focused on, the mitigation measures. I guess I must not have paid enough attention to that part, but,
Because to me, the buyouts are the cheaper option, almost regardless.
if I had to guess, I would guess yes, just because of the difficulty involved with crossing monument land, which I'm guessing is not gonna happen no matter what, would be my guess. They wouldn't allow that. Then, anywhere else you go with it, you're either dealing with that high-pressure pipeline or a rock ledge. So I think the construction cost is just gonna go through the roof, would be my guess, but I don't know, so.
Right. But I guess in my mind, unless there were some fairly significant commitment from either private or the city or both, we wouldn't want to move forward at all.
Yeah, and, that could be your decision today if, in my mind, if you guys had something in mind for.
I mean, I think we could reach out to,
Yeah.
those other parties and see what are they open to chipping in or whatever.
Yep.
If they think it's important enough to have another study done.
Yep, that would be certainly an option. I don't have anything in mind. I just wanted to
Right.
come today and give you an update of where we're at, so.
So at
Mr.
this-
Chairman, if I may, it would be reasonable, I would think, if we could, if this is a $30,000 study, if the county could do a 10, the city could put in 10 and the private individuals could do 10 and split it 3 ways would be possibly palatable to look at. We did mention that idea to the city administrator and zoning inspector at the meeting, and said, you know, I'm not going to comment on it now. You haven't made a decision. I haven't taken it to my council yet. So, but if we were wanting to go forward, you know, having new information that's newer than 1995 isn't necessarily all bad either. I know it's expensive, but we're also have Bolton and Minks was the cheapest of the bids we had.
By a lot.
A lot. And the other thing we have in our favor is they are also the engineering firm for the city. We have a history with them too. So they have access to all the city records without having to recreate everything and cost more money and bills by the hour. You know, and they know all of their drainage information. They know how big the storm sewers are, where they all outlet. You know, and maybe they come up with something we haven't thought of and they didn't think of back in 95. You know, things have changed a little bit. But as far as the buyouts go and that type of thing, those dollars have changed. I would think in some cases they went up, maybe some of them went down too. So, but you'd have current numbers on it anyway. And again, any buyouts would be a city issue on that because obviously that's not the county. But I think it would, if we could do that, I think it would go a long ways to helping the community and the citizens in Northeast Pipestone and know that maybe not necessarily the ditch is all at fault at this. We've done a lot of work and spent a lot of money on it. But if we could get buy-in from the other organizations, they could chip in. I think that would be a reasonable way to move. If the board would agree with that, and I'll certainly reach out to Jeff and the members of the public on the task force and see if that would be palatable to them. You know, we don't have to make a decision and commit any money today, but say, you know, if we could get that, it makes sense, we should move forward. So if we can secure the funding, we can come back and say we've got the funding in line. It's just something we want to do.
One thing I would add, the Bolton and Mank quote, our estimate was 30 to 40, depending on how in-depth we wanted to go on certain things. They were talking about getting work done this fall. So I don't know if that would happen anymore. You know, they gave us this quote almost, you know, a month ago or whatever. So it might get pushed into next year. So if prices adjust at the first of the year, I'm guessing they get closer to that. It migrate towards that higher end of their range. But so that's just something to think about. It's not necessarily 30,000 to get this done. It might be more than that. So
It might be less too.
correct, you might, yeah.
I wouldn't, I think Steve's thoughts here are probably a good way to approach this. I don't know that we want to make any motions today. We don't know the numbers. But I wouldn't care to have the county get dragged into the whole project. I don't think the taxpayers all over the county should be involved in it, but if we could go a third, and a third, have some of the partners in with it, then I think everybody owns a little bit of the project that way, and I would be okay with that, but other than that, I wouldn't care to get involved in it.
Right.
We're not here open, giving everybody a blank check with the county's money, so.
So
I don't know I don't know about you, Les, if you're okay with it, and Dan, and.
Yeah, so one other thing that would, one other thing that probably need to be addressed would be who's like coordinating with the consultant.
Yeah. Well,
DNR recommended having one point of contact, so.
that's kind of up to the committee or whoever's talking.
Okay. Yep, so we don't have to decide anything today, but I
You are muted. You can mute or unmute yourself by pressing *6.
But is that all we need to do at this point then, Nick?
right, it was just an update for today. I guess if you're asking us to reach out and try to find other participation, I mean, that's
Steve can-
logical starting
Have a
point.
meeting, kind of present that and see how it goes, and.
Yep, we'll do that. That'll work.
Mr. Chair and Steve, can you hear me? I'm not getting any audio from you at all. I'm not able to hear anything. Are you able to hear me?
We can hear you, Dan.
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. Can you hear us?
The host would like you to unmute your microphone.
So you
You
can
can
hear me
press
now? Is that what you
*6
said?
to unmute.
I can't hear anything.
want me to hit *6?
Yeah, go ahead and see if that's what's doing it.
You are unmuted.
Are you okay now,
That's
Dan?
back.
Are you all right now, Dan?
Now I can hear.
Okay.
Okay,
That's
good.
better, thank you.
I'm not sure if it somehow got muted down.
Okay.
Yeah, I muted here because we were getting noise from other participants, so I hit the mute, and I thought I must have hit the wrong one. Sorry.
So you want to kind of refresh so Dan's up to speed on what's going on?
Oh, sure. Dan, our discussion about these ditch RFPs came down to, no action or anything was taken, but the board instructed Steve and I to reach out to the city and the private folks to see if they'd be willing to each do a third of the cost of an RFP, and then if they were willing to cost share in that, then we would decide if we we're going to move forward with it.
That sounds very reasonable to me. I think, personally, I'd like to convey that we are certainly willing to work with the other entities here to make this happen. We don't want to drag it out. At the same time, before we commit to a financial obligation here, we need to have a little bit more figured out as far as, first of all, what we're getting for paying for forward. So I like that. Steve, do you have everybody you need with your existing task force to proceed with it?
Yes, we do. Yep, we're in good shape on that.
Okay. Steve's gonna kind of take the lead on that.
Yep, that's fine.
And the counties.
Nick and I will work on that together and get it taken, and set up a meeting with the group again.
Okay. Anything else, Nick?
No, that's it for me today, unless anybody else has any questions.
Questions for Nick or comments or? Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
You guys have
Thanks, Nick.
Yep. You guys all have a good Thanksgiving.
You too.
Thanks, you too.
And we have Steve Weitz to give us a report on the senior citizens. I think Steve is there. I think he's still muted. I don't know. Steve, are you there? Steve, are you online? I think you're muted at this point.
*6 should unmute you.
There you go.
There we go.
Are you there now?
Okay.
Okay, good. Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, actually, Diane Hurd from the Senior Center is going to be the very first one that's going to speak. So, good morning to everybody there.
Good morning, Steve.
Morning.
Good morning.
Hi.
I'd like to, oh, ready? Okay. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Diane Hurd, Office Manager of the Pipestone Senior Center. When some of the court site fell off the old Carnegie Library building that we were using for the Senior Center, it was no longer able for us to be in that building. And then so since April 1st, the Senior Center has been renting an office space from the PBM Land Management, LLC, for $200 a month. Now, when I moved into this building, I was aware the building was for sale or leased. I've been notified that as of January 1st, I can no longer be in this space. So I'm looking for a place to move into. And then since the beginning of the year, the city has been acting as my interim board. But as of November 12th, I have a regular board elected for the Senior Center, which is Joanne Weeds, President, Margie Oy, Vice President, Lori Luda, Secretary, and Steve Weeds as Treasurer. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to the President-elect, Joanne Weeds. Good morning, everybody.
Morning. Morning.
First of all, I want to thank you for allowing us time on the commissioner's agenda. As Diane said, the senior center needs to move out of this present building by the end of the month, or by the end of December 31st, by the end of the year, I'm sorry. And we have been renting this space for about $200 a month. Diane and now the board, we've been searching Pipestone for a suitable location to call home for the center. We're in hopes that a new location has been found, but we're still working on that. There is a large population of seniors in Pipestone County and a definite need for activities and a place for our seniors to gather. It takes an entire county to keep our seniors active and healthy and safe, which is why we are looking to the county and the city for some help in this. We appreciate the $3,000 appropriation that is given to the center each year. However, more funds will be needed in the future due to the fact that the organization will be paying rent and utilities along with other expenses. Since other senior centers in the county have closed, the Pipestone Center hopefully will become a hub of activity for many of the area seniors. We look forward to welcoming members from the closed center to Pipestone. We have applied for some grants and we'll be applying for more grants as they become available to us. We know that first year of operation, the center is going to be a challenge financially, and that is why we're looking to the county for some additional funds for the fiscal year 2021 future. I guess at this time, if you have any questions, otherwise I just want to thank you for your consideration and your time for listening to us today.
Mr. Chair, Joanne, this is Dan Wilden.
Yes,
Hi, what type of facility do you need? And do you need something for all 5 days of the work week? And during the lunch hour, you can serve lunches like you used to in the past, or just what is your scope?
correct. That's what we are looking for. We would like to get the senior dining and Meals on Wheels back in with us, because presently, at the building we're at, there is no kitchen. So we have not been able to have senior dining. And of course, with COVID, that's kind of been put on the back burner anyway. But they have been working out of a church. So we are looking for a facility that, yes, we can bring senior dining and the Meals on Wheels back in with us so we're all in one place. It also has to be handicapped accessible, things like that. And of course, if we're going to be hopefully getting more membership, it's going to have to be a little bigger building for us to be in too.
And obviously parking and so forth would be considerations as well too. It's to find the right fit for you. Have you got something in mind yet? How has the search been going?
Well, we are working presently with the owners of the old Pipestone Pizza Hut building.
Okay.
We think that would be a good fit for us. There's a lot of parking there, a nice parking spot. We have toured it. It is going to need some remodeling, things like that. But it has 2 bathrooms already in it. It does have a kitchen, which will need updating, of course. But we're thinking that could work for us, so we are working with them presently.
Is the proposal then for you to be tenants or to actually own the building itself?
No, we are working right now with the EC, who will purchase the building for us, and then we will rent from them. We looked into it purchasing on our own through the senior center, but we just financially could not purchase the building and then be responsible for the upkeep. I mean, if a furnace goes out or the roof starts leaking or something like that, the senior center just is not financially up to the standards right now to be able to do that. So the PDC is kind of stepping in to help. And basically, like I earlier said, we're working with them to purchase the building so we may rent it from them. But again, then we have rent, of course, that, is going to be more than the $200, I'm sure, than what we were presently paying. And we will be responsible for utilities, and we will have to pay for the remodeling, of the building and things that will need to be fixed. So these are all going to be a financial struggle for us, at least for the first year, until we hopefully can get, on our feet.
Do you have any cash on hand to do any of this stuff?
Just a minute, and I will check with Steve, he's the treasurer, and Diane, they just worked up a budget, so I will turn it over to them, and they can probably answer that question for you. Just a moment. Cash on hand.
Okay, presently, the senior center has about $18,000 cash. And we've applied for grants, several different grants and stuff, and so we think that with the money that possibly could be coming in, we're probably going to end up with about $30,000 at the end of the fiscal year, if all of the money comes in, that we've applied for and stuff. And our budget looks like it's going to be about $40,000 to $41,000 if the rent is approximately what they told us. We're looking at about $1,000 a month rent and about $400 a month utility. And so with those expenses, with the salaries, the salary that there is, and office supplies and those type of things, we're looking at a budget of about $41,000. And we feel that we can come up with about $30,000 of those dollars. And so that's why we're kind of looking to the city and the county for the rest of those funds. And one of the questions that I had is, when the Woodstock and Jasper centers were operating, were there appropriations that were given to them, and would it be possible for those funds to be funneled over to the Pipestone? Because we're in hopes that some of the Jasper and the Woodstock people will come to this center if it gets done.
I don't think at the.
And then the second question is, I know you guys are on a lot of different boards, a lot of different, you see a lot of different people. Are you aware of any funding or any grants within these groups that you could steer us in the right direction to apply for some funds from them?
Well, Steve, I don't think we've budgeted any money for any of the other communities in the county for senior centers. And Pipestone has been getting some, although it's a smaller amount, but at one point I think it was cut down to nothing. If I'm not, I may be wrong on that. I don't think there was.
We currently provide $3,000
right
to Pipestone, and that's it.
Yeah, we haven't been.
There are no other active centers to my knowledge.
Well, Edgerton has a community center, and so does Holland and Jasper, but I don't know that they're active at this point. They're shut down with the virus, but, so we have not been funding any of those. If we're going to fund the Pipestone Center, I think we should do the other communities as well, on a ratio according to their population. And, Pipestone's half the population of the county, more give or take, so I think whatever funds we give Pipestone, we should spread among the other communities too. So I don't know how I would think the city would have a big part to play in this. After all, it is their Pipestone city citizens that are involved here. It's not necessarily all county responsibility, I don't think, but I don't know. That's just my feelings.
Steve, you mentioned the Meals on Wheels. Currently, what are meals being prepared at now?
Good Sam does the preparation of the Meals on Wheels, and then they are transported to First Lutheran Church, and First Lutheran Church is allowing them to be there free of charge at the present time. But they're not certain how long they're going to be able to stay there. When there's other functions and stuff, it does kind of react one with another, and it makes it very, very difficult to serve the meals out of there when there's, let's just say, a funeral, for example, or like last week when they had their beef meal. It was really tough for them to work there.
I'm thinking again from a funding source, not that Meals on Wheels has unlimited resources either, but if you do get this building, it's got that commercial kitchen, so is the intent to prepare the meals there in your setting?
No. The meals will be prepared elsewhere because of not wanting to get into the licensing and stuff that it's going to take for a kitchen. And basically, the kitchen at Pizza Hut has been approved. The only thing that's really left there is the big commercial freezer. Otherwise, the kitchen is pretty blank.
So there's probably no funding stream through Meals on Wheels.
The basic funding for Meals on Wheels are the people, and there's like 35 people that get Meals on Wheels right now. It's their ability to pay for the meal.
Right.
and there's quite a few that can't. We've had the conversation with Louis Laney, who is the head of Meals on Wheels, and we've asked him if they could also perhaps help with the rent and stuff, and it doesn't sound like there's any funding. We are going to have a meeting with the boss. She's from Wyndham, but Louis said probably their next step, they would just simply say if they've got to pay rent or kick into the expenses, they probably would have to close Meals on Wheels. And we certainly don't want to see that happening.
Understand.
Steve, this is Steve. How much is the city willing to kick in on this project? Any idea?
We are working with them right now. We made a presentation to them last week, but you know, it's the same situation as you guys. It's a budgeting item, and they in the past have budgeted dollars to keep the old Carnegie Library open. And so what we've asked from them is if they would funnel those dollars from the Carnegie Library over to the new senior center. Just for an example, the one wall on the east that has fallen down on the Carnegie Library, they're looking at about $200,000 plus to just fix that wall. And with the further inspection on the building, the north wall is also coming out. The steps are bad. Right now, it's mildewy inside, and so it doesn't appear that ever will be an option. So we've requested those funds be transferred over to us, but of course, you know, they're in the same situation. You know, they're going to look at their budget and get back to us next year also. So I guess, like I say, we're just, you know, we're looking at every possible avenue that we can for funding.
Even in the best of time, Carnegie, beautiful historic building, but again, because of the parking, handicap accessibility, and so forth, it never was an ideal setup for the senior center.
Correct. Yeah, and I think that quite a few people will definitely attest to that. And I think that there's people that didn't attend just because they didn't feel comfortable going in the building, couldn't do the steps if they have to. In case of an emergency, if they were caught upstairs and the elevator didn't work, you know, there was fear there that they wouldn't be able to get out. Not the most ideal situation for Meals on Wheels, whereas the Pizza Hut, with the amount of room that there is in the kitchen and the amount of room that there would be for the seniors or an office for the office manager, there's a pool table that they have, a piano. It just could be a very home environment for them to be able to have for the rest of the time, let's just say. It's just, there couldn't be a better building available.
It sounds like a reasonable alternative for you. Do you have kind of a tentative business plan, if you want to call it that, or budget put together, what you're going to need to be able to make it work?
Well, we put the budget together, and it looks like we need about between $41,000 and $42,000 a year. And like I stated earlier, for what we have put together yesterday, by the end of 2021, with all of the different fundraisings and stuff that we know that we can have, if everything goes well, we should have about $31,000. So we're looking for an additional $10,000, whether we can raise that in grants, whether we can raise that through the county, the city, or whatever. But then we feel that we'll be able to operate the very first year. And in speaking with PDC, they feel that there will be enough funds coming in from businesses, from charitable associations and stuff, that hopefully, and with the county appropriation and whatever the city could give us, that we'll be able to operate in the future then without any problems.
So this $10,000 shortfall that you got now then, are you already including in your existing assets the current $3,000 application that the county's giving you?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's going to be $3,000 that we're already committed to, plus more to help cover that $10,000 deficit.
Correct.
I think if there was some funding available for the Edgerton Senior Center, they would be willing to reopen as well. But they did close it down because a lot of it's because of lack of attendance, and some of it's because of the cost of utilities, heat, insurance. You need insurance, that's a big item. So yeah, they got a beautiful handicap accessible building in Edgerton, but it's empty right now. and all the stuff is there, the kitchen's there, the pool tables are there. If we're gonna fund other communities, I certainly would be in favor of giving Edgerton a boost too for funding their senior center. And I think it might reopen, but those are things every community struggles with. You know, what do we do with our money and how much do we wanna get involved in all this stuff? I don't know. We haven't been funding any of the other communities at this point in the county, so. And Pipestone, I realize the $3,000 isn't a lot of money, but nevertheless, to be fair, we should fund the other communities on an equal basis too. But, so whatever we do here, I think we have to do out countywide.
But of course, there was a time when we did fund
Yeah.
the one here
There
more,
was a county,
employee even.
yeah,
Right.
and that was eliminated back several years ago, but.
Yeah.
So I think it would be something you'd have to take up, but we're kind of done budgeting for 21 already. I don't know, at this point, but.
Yeah, we kept our
One other
budget pretty
question.
lean for 21. Said we kept our budget pretty lean for 21 due to COVID. Fears of state funding being pulled back. Maybe not next year, but in 22, 23.
Did I understand correctly that you think the 10,000 shortfall will be the same amount you'll need in ongoing years as well? That you'll be able to raise?
That we really can't answer right now because of the amount of grants and stuff that we're able to go after. We were in hopes to be able to stay in this building a little bit longer and have more time to work on it, but with only having 5 weeks to be able to find another place, we're kind of limited as to what we can do at the present time.
Right.
I have a question for anyone that's on the Prime West board. Does Prime West do funding for senior centers or anything?
Not at this time. They've kind of pulled their horns into.
Okay, thank you.
Another question for you, Steve, was, is it fair to say that as generations have changed, the senior center goes back to the 70s, if I'm not mistaken?
I think you're right.
Yeah, and demographics have changed a little bit. So what are the expectations for the senior center? It's no longer just a place for people, because now as you get older, all of a sudden it's like it's so different. People's lifestyle has changed so much. So are there other services you could offer there that would be fit better with today's aging people?
That's a really, really good question. That's one of the things that we've been discussing. There are of the elderly population people that are interested in learning more about computers. They're interested in learning more about iPads. How do I use my iPhone? How do I use my Droid phone? They want to do some exercise classes. And of course, just camaraderie, just being able to be together, to dine together, to have a place to be able to go. And for the last period of time, it's just been so uncertain for places to go. And this building out here, even though it's nice, is not an ideal situation for the senior center because of having to travel on the highway. Parking, there's only 6 parking spots, probably at the most, maybe 8. So if you have a group or anything, we get into the business parking lot and it's difficult. It just is. But I know Diane has some ideas in mind, about classes that can be offered and different speakers and stuff. Anything to stimulate the mind and to help people keep away from lonesomeness and being able to learn. We never want to stop learning no matter how old we are.
Okay, any other comments or discussion, or we can consider it, think about it a little bit here? I don't know that we're ready to make any decisions today, are we, or?
Probably not, but I think, please keep us up to date on what you find out, from the city or these other groups that you're reaching out to, and, we could certainly explore, might be able to
There's a
do.
lot of areas available, you know, churches have social activities, other areas in the community as well, then I don't know how many,
Yeah, if any of that's
I
available.
don't know, yeah. And the library may have, Steve mentioned computer, you know, classes and stuff, the library may have some of that stuff available now, I don't know. It's a possibility they may.
This is Joanne again. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I hear you talking about the library and places like that you know, are available. And that's all very true. But to get all the senior citizens together in one place, when you're talking about the library, you're having children there, you're having other adults there reading. There really isn't an ideal room where it could be just, you know, for the senior citizens. And I just feel that the senior citizens have been kind of forgotten and pushed back to the side. And we have to realize that our community is a rural community and there are more senior citizens probably than anybody else in the county. And I think we have to make them feel important. And like Steve said, we always want to learn. People want to learn about this Zoom. We've had people ask about that, how they can communicate with their families now because they can't get together because of the COVID. This would be an ideal situation. We could get some computers. They could have learning with computers and how to sit down and visit with their families. And again, this is something that could be done in a senior center, not in a library or a church basement or, you know, something like that. We need to let the seniors know that they are important and not just shoved from one building to another. We've also talked about, you know, in visiting with the members, you know, okay, somebody would like to have a birthday party and have their family. Again, the Pizza Hut would be an ideal place. It's not so big. It's a homey building once it's all repaired and updated. Who wants to go sit in the church basement for maybe 10 people for a birthday party or an anniversary party or something like that? We need to keep it homey. And we need to let the seniors know they are important. Don't just shove them off in a building somewhere.
Okay. Well, those are all noble ideas and sounds great, but it all has a price tag to it. And
that's why we're coming to the county and the city and grants for help.
Fortunately, the county does have a
The
fund.
seniors can't do it all on their.
We do have some money in our balance and in our accounts, but that's why we're a target for all these kind of things too. And we do appreciate your efforts.
And we understand there can't be a decision made today, but we are hoping that you will discuss it and take some consideration and think about it, because eventually we're all going to be senior citizens if we're not there already. And hopefully, God willing, we could have a place then for all of us to go.
Okay. Well, thank you. We'll give it some thought and see what the board comes up with here, so we appreciate your.
So thank you very much for
appreciate your
consideration
efforts.
and your time.
Yep.
You bet, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else for Kathy today? Is Kathy still on the phone here?
Kathy's there.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi, I'm still here.
Okay.
Joyce is going to be joining me too for part of this discussion. So the personnel updates I have today are all for the assessor's office. And Lisa Braun did obtain her AMA license, and she's currently a junior appraiser. And so we would like to move her to a senior appraiser level as of the date of her license effective date. And if you remember, we did this for Chris McChesney earlier in the year. So we're looking at placing her on step G of the new pay scale. It's about a 4.5% increase over her current wage. We try to be close to that 5% for promotions. So we'd be moving her from $28.48 to $29.75 per hour. And I would need board approval for that.
Okay, anybody care to move that?
So move.
Chris made the motion.
Second.
Nick, for a second.
Les seconded already, Dan.
Okay,
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so now we have 2 senior appraisers in the assessor's office, which has been a goal for quite some time. And I may just turn it over to Joyce now on kind of what she's looking at for succession planning in her office and the plan moving forward.
Morning, everybody.
Hi, Joyce.
Thank you for letting me come before you today. We're getting into, and I know we've talked about this many, many times, about the transition of, when I retire, which will probably be, I'm thinking 3 years at the long end of everything. So we currently have the 2 senior appraisers, and we have a junior appraiser and assessing tech. And it's going to be more difficult for me to transition to who do I train to start taking over my roles. And just kind of keep in mind, so often in this industry, our processes in the getting the taxes out and valuation notices and then taxes, it's an annual, it's cyclical, and we probably do it once a year. So here we are sitting with probably 3 years before I retire, and I truly think we need to get someone in place as a deputy assessor so that I know who to train. Right now, I try to keep everything level, give every employee that opportunity to see what I do, in certain instances. And sometimes I don't share that with them either because I just don't know who's the next on board. So I'm here today and I apologize for this. This is not in the budget for 21, but it's kind of come to light. I think as we start seeing people retire, and we've had 2 or 3 in our region retire just recently in the last 2 to 3 months, that if we don't progress someone, if we don't take that transition, I'm afraid we're going to lose them, and then we're going to start from square one. And at a minimum, it's a 3-year training to get where the senior appraisers are today. And I won't, and it's 5 to get a SAMA, and I won't be here in 5 years. So I think we truly need to consider moving someone to deputy assessor, and so that I can focus on training that individual. And what I would like to make it known is that this deputy assessor would be trained and with the potential of taking over as a county assessor when I retire. So a lot to think about there, but I'm asking that we approve the deputy assessor opening effective for the first of the year, actually. So I'm welcome to any questions, guys.
Okay, anybody have any comments or questions for Joyce? Dan?
yeah, Joyce, you stated that it's not in the budget at this point. Any idea what kind of monies it would take to create this deputy assessor's position now?
Kathy, you can probably kind of help me out there.
We already have a pay range established for this job. It's a job that we've had in the past. It just hasn't been filled. So it is a job that we have, and it is in the union contract already. As far as the pay scale in comparison to their current pay scale and the senior appraiser, it's just one pay scale higher than their current range. So approximately, let's see here, about $4,000 to $5,000 a year more than the current range. But you'd be looking at another probably 5% over what they're currently making just for a promotion. Kind of what we've been doing for our promotional wage increase.
Okay. Joyce, how much room have have you got in your budget that you've already submitted for 2021 to absorb any of that 5%?
Probably not a lot, because I don't have a lot of cushion in my budget, you know, because the income's pretty much non-existent. So, I mean, I wouldn't count on that there's any room there.
Okay. My other question then would be to Steve. Of course, we've already adopted our budget not to exceed the levy amount, but we still haven't finalized it. And actually, we were still hoping to be able to maybe reduce that levy amount a little bit. What do you think, Steve? If you need room to maybe move some funds around and still not exceed, but perhaps not be able to reduce what we're hoping to reduce?
Yeah, right, Dan. We're looking at a 1% levy increase, which is around $73,000 increase. We do have funds in the budget that are non-allocated, but as far as reducing the levy from 1% lower than that, I would not recommend that we do that. We do have costs going forward. We're working with union negotiations now, and we already approved the deputies union at a 3% increase, and we'd already planned that to be lower than that. So we would be taking out of reserves or moving around in the budgets. But on 5% is not nearly as expensive as bringing on a brand new employee from the outside. We're moving someone up from the inside, so it's much more cost effective for us to do that than to hire a new person, where we'd have a full new salary, a full set of benefits on top of that too, which we've already got the benefits in place for this person. So as Kathy said, a 5% boost to the next level is not anything that really we couldn't absorb. And another thing, I'm a total advocate of moving people up from the inside, and having a deputy assessor position is a logical move for that department. They're doing much more work. It's getting much more complicated, and to have these people now that we have working with us, and have two people that would be hopefully applying for this, and we could choose one out of that makes perfect sense then to try to go out. These people know our systems, know our processes. They've worked very well with Joyce over the years, and she's an excellent assessor, and they've learned from one of the best as far as I'm concerned. So having that is all positives in our favor. So I would recommend that we move forward with this to the board.
So Kathy, do we need a motion to approve this move at this point, or to go forward with this plan? We do. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval.
Chris made a motion to approve the request, and Dan?
I'll second.
Seconded, okay. Dan is second, Chris did the motion. Any other discussion? I think it's good to plan ahead a little bit so we know what's coming down the road. We don't get surprises, and I think it's wise of Joyce it's nice to have a little timeline in mind as we go forward, so at least we know how to plan ahead here. So we appreciate that too from Joyce. So okay, all in favor say aye. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, okay. Motion passes.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your support.
I'd like to also echo what Steve Union had said about advancing from within. It absolutely sends the correct message to our employees that they've got a future here, a future for growth. So I really like the concept.
Yeah, I agree totally.
Huge money saver too.
What's that?
It's a huge money saver
Oh, yeah.
also. The cost to train for these positions where it takes years of training, I mean, all that is extra expense for us.
Hey Kathy, anything else from you today?
I believe that's it.
Okay, thank you. Steve, we have a budget report for information and a ID badge printer system to discuss.
Mr. Chairman and board members, you should have before you the budget report for the third quarter. Due to the elections, it's actually covering an additional month of October in there too. So we're 10 months into the budget now versus 9 months. So it's the third quarter plus one. Going through each individual department, looking through there, independent audit is 101%, so we're right on the money at the $30,000 that Tyler was expecting for that. And I'll get with him too, because we do need to have him to come to the board and do a budget report for us as well. Bill's a little over budget, but a lot of that, we had some additional equipment that he needed to buy. A lot of it was for battery backups and those types of things as we were working through our generator problems, and we had some damages done there to batteries, so he had to buy extra batteries and things like that. Sheriff General is really right on target. Their overtime is higher than anticipated, but with COVID, we're also, remember that we do have hopefully a little bit of COVID money back to help offset that as well, so I'm not concerned about that as all. The 282 Enhanced 911 department, that went over because the board approved the simulcast paging project this year. So that's why that was up significantly, and that came out of the 6650 account. And other than that, very pleased with how we're looking at going into the last 2 months of the year. And Road and Bridge is on the back and is virtually in line with where he needs to go. The construction account, I don't put too much basis on that because the state and federal monies don't all come in at the same time. So we spend it, the money comes in and it offsets it. So Nick is right on target where he should be on that. So other than that, it's pretty good, and just as have no issues at all to bring to the board unless you have any questions or comments or anything you've looked at.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, if I can do the badge ID system, I'd move to that if that's okay.
Sounds good.
Kathy and I and Bill and Bridget, and we've discussed it at department head meetings over the last months and even years, and figured it's time to pull the trigger on a badge ID system so that we know who's in the building, people who are working for us. We do have a requirement that states if any outside vendor is actually working within the confines of our radio room, that they actually have to have a log and be identified as who's working there, because there are security features in there that belong to the state and federal government as well. So to have, if Raycom or Alpha Wireless or anybody from the state comes in, that we want to be able to identify those with a visitor type badge as well. Plus we want them, obviously, for the employees as a primary reason for this, so that the public knows who we are, what our jobs are, what we're doing here, and that we look like county employees and have an ID. And I did put in there, there's a sample that Bill put together of one years ago. There's a kind of a pixelated picture of Tyler in there. And the badges would look something similar to this. It would have our county name on it, picture of the person, the first name and last initial, so you don't have full names, what position the person holds, and then on the back side of it, we would have possibly an expiration date and when it was issued and that type of thing on there. And then we could also have a spot for our mission statement of the county as well if we wanted to do that. But we do have, and I put on there the background for our responsibility, that we have a responsibility to provide a safe and secure environment for our employees and citizens by the development of a clear and easily recognized identification system for employees and our independent contractors to use while acting in performance of their duties. Kathy had brought this up quite a while ago, and it actually happened to Nick and the highway department guys when they go off for trainings, is that to obtain a government discount on rooms, they require some sort of an ID to present of who you're actually working for, instead of just saying, well, I work for the county. Well, show us an ID that, how you are a proof of that. So that's what this would be for, is using that when people travel as well. So we do have a policy already written up that's in draft form, so we would bring that forward and get that approved. And also talk to Casey about it, and she would like to use it if we ever needed it for disaster service volunteers, for putting, say, volunteer on the card, that type of thing, so that people would be recognized if they're working for the county in a volunteer position as well. So we're looking at initially of about 150 card run, and that would take care of all the employees, some visitor cards, current ambulance and EMT cards. So 140 to 150 is where it'd be on the line on that. So I did obtain 2 quotes, one from Identisys, which is out of Minneapolis, and another one from IDville, which is out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. We do have a relationship already with DataCard, as the Sheriff's Department is using their system for their permit to carry cards. So if any of you have one of those cards that Diane prints up there, it's run through the same system, same people, same card, same everything. So, and the printer that Identisys is providing is a double-sided, it's called a CD880 duplex, so it's a double-sided printer that can be hooked into our internet, our Ethernet and with the county. And total price on theirs is $3309.50, and the one that we're looking at from IDville is $3293. It's a $16.41 business. We do get an extra 100 cards actually 200 cards from Identisys, so instead of 300, we get 500 cards. So for the difference in the money, I'm going to recommend that we go with the Identisys system and recommend we move forward with that. We will have some little smaller other costs involved, would be lanyards, clips, that type of thing, to have them attached to the person, but that's all very minimal what we're doing. There is money in the non-departmental budget to cover this. There's $3,000 in the equipment budget in that has not been tapped for anything else, so I'd recommend taking it out of that account if the board would approve that.
These cards would be printed and made here?
Yes,
or
printed and made here.
Would we have one individual in the staff would take care of that? Or
Yes, I'm going to tap the HR department, Kathy, and then IT to help. So Kathy just got a little more duty.
Someone has to have the machine and has to have the records of who's
Exactly.
they're out there and all that, so.
It's a logical place for it to go. I'll learn how to do it too. Kathy will, Bill and Bridget will work with it too. We'll do it down here.
So the idea would be everyone would clip it on their jacket or have a little
lanyard.
clip or a chain around their neck.
When they're working, yeah. We're
Mr.
traveling
Chair.
for the county and need to be shown.
Mr. Chair, I have some familiarity with this company too, both through my employer and then up at AMC conventions too, speaking with the vendors and going over the products there. And likewise with my employer, we have an access control system, so all doors are secure, but you can wave your badge in front of it and they'll unsecure the door depending on your access level, et cetera. And this company would work right into that if we ever develop that type of system. You know.
Is this the same company that you were familiar with, this Intellisys?
Yeah.
Okay.
And likewise with that type of system, like Bill or whoever could have a log anytime any door is accessed and pop up that person's picture, which ID is being used, and stuff like that. So, you know, we can grow with that system as well.
Yeah, plastic card? Not a
Plastic
paper
PVC card. No, it's
direct,
plastic.
actually a plastic card.
Heavy-duty card.
So I'll make the motion to approve this.
Okay. Chris made the motion. Les seconded. Any other discussion? What about timing, Steve? Is it something we have in a few months or?
Probably I'll have it here in
spring,
probably
or?
less than 2 weeks.
Oh,
We'll have it.
No problem.
so.
Just curious.
And Commissioner, Chris is right on target with the future door access, things like that. That's an expensive proposition, but this is able to grow with us. They do have a upgraded software system that would be able to encode proximity cards or chip cards like you use to put in the gas pump and that type of thing. So, you know, we can move forward from that. So this is the logical place to start.
Talked about enhancing our security thing here for a long time too. This might be a small step in that
It's a small
direction, but
step.
it's a good move, I would guess, so. Security is something we haven't talked about since the virus thing came about so much, but it's something that we have talked about in the past quite a bit. So, okay, we have a motion.
In a second.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we have a Truth and Taxation meeting on December 7th, 7 PM. Our front door will be open for that, Steve?
Yep.
Okay.
And we'll also do it on Zoom as well. So
Okay.
just like we're doing now. I really would somehow like to get this better so we would be able to have the public see what we're seeing here instead of just the picture, but
We have to do a camera upgrade.
camera upgrade, and we need to be able to get that in here so that we can move it too, so. It's hard to get a vendor to do that right now.
Got a new TV to put up here too,
Yep,
right?
we've got video to
That
go up there.
isn't-
That's, we were,
What are we waiting for on that?
we were waiting hopefully to get a vendor that was gonna upgrade our system in here with new cameras so we could do Zoom. And that's why we tried to do it at the same time instead of piecemeal it together, so.
Do a total package.
Do a total package.
Okay.
We're working on that. Bill has tried several vendors and they don't even call or email him back anymore.
They just don't want to do it at this time?
I
or-
think it's just a matter of.
Market for it, it's
there's-
huge.
Oh, there's
The market,
backed
yeah.
up.
Everybody's doing this. Every every office, every, church, every business, every government is all doing these things, so,
Okay.
still working towards it.
Anything else for the board, Steve?
Just the AMC virtual meeting, which is taking the place of the conference it's normally held. That is going to be the afternoon of December 7th, and I think you've all received emails from AMC requesting you sign up for that if you want to do that.
Before the Truth and Taxation meeting.
Yep, same day, just before that, so.
Okay.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman, at this time.
I'd make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Chris, you second it, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thanks,
Thank you, Dan.
Have a good day.